Chris, do you know the whereabouts of Stugotz? He was here a moment ago. He was rummaging around the bacon, and then we're supposed to start, and he vanishes because I don't think he's going to enjoy everything that happens today.
He's just mud. He's coming in right now. He's just like, Knicks.
He just gave you a muttering muh under his breath, a broken muh. He knows what he's in for today.
It was fun while it lasted.
It was. It was a good time. Everyone's afraid to play at the Mecca because it's so hard to play, and you don't want the electricity of a Game 7, and unless you have an offense that's better than any in 60 years. 60 years. Games are supposed to be low scoring in Game 7. They all look like Minnesota, Denver because everybody's sphincter gets real tight, except the Pacers.
Yeah, and Minnesota.
No, they didn't. I mean, they scored under 100 points, too. Like, it wasn't Anthony Edwards was not.
He was terrible.
Offensively, they were not good, but we don't know how to talk about defense or cover it. So I'm seeing right now, is Anthony Edwards the face of the NBA when he goes 6 for 24, and he didn't have much of anything to do with why they won last night?
Is he the face of the Timberwolves? How about that? I mean, Karl Anthony Towns. Jesus.
It is super interesting to me, our inability to celebrate defense. Do you realize that the Denver offense in that series would have ranked 30th in the league if you just took points per possession over the course of the season? Like, we all thought Gobert was a bad trade. There was nobody who was arguing that Gobert was a good trade. I didn't hear anybody making the argument anywhere in the media that Minnesota trading for Gobert was a good trade, and yet I just saw Denver's champion offense dragged into the quicksand. They've got an unstoppable player, and you've got after the game, you've got Anthony Edwards yelling and screaming in the locker room and outside the locker room that he put the handcuffs on Jamal Murray.
Mm-hmm. He was 6 of 24.
I know.
I want to hear about it.
Well, but he advances, and
he did advance. That was a big win for Minnesota. The pressure is on the T-Wolves now, Dan. You got to finish it off. Like, there are expectations now. I think they're the best team in the West, and no one believes in the Celtics. So they have expectations.
Yeah, and what, though? Like,
well, doesn't matter.
Who cares? They had expectations in that series after winning the first 2 games.
You beat the defending champs and Jokic. They have a 20-point lead. You beat them on their home court in a Game 7, and they're suddenly expectations.
Let's keep our eye on the ball. I know you're going to do a lot of this today, talking about how everyone else has expectations, not your team that lost a Game 7.
Deflecting my Knicks pain, Dan, yeah.
It's, again, a historically awful performance from the Knicks that's totally understandable because everyone for them got hurt. But you were saying when you left last week, time for the Mecca to bring one home. Time for the Mecca to win one for me, and the energy was drained out of that place immediately. They wasted the Willis Reed moment that they tried to get. They drugged up poor Anunoby in a way that that made him seem to not know where he was. They drugged him up to get the Willis Reed moment. They got the Willis Reed moment and then spent the rest of the game down by 20.
You're going to miss the Knicks. I mean, you are. I don't care what anyone says. You're going to miss them. You're going to miss the fans. You're going to miss the Mecca.
Not really.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss being able to do this show. I only get to do this show once. Only once a postseason do you get to do this show. The biggest game in Knicks history had more sad celebrities than I've ever seen in one place.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chatting the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chatting the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys, not so tough, but man's keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize, right girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the stop that. Stop that.
Halliburton, Stugotz, has now gotten deeper in the Eastern Conference Finals than Joel Embiid ever has. You have in Pascal Siakam someone who has twice now made it deeper into an Eastern Conference postseason than all of the process pieces. Mm-hmm. The Knicks, do you know how long their drought is without making an Eastern Conference Finals in relation to the rest of the league? Longest droughts without getting to a conference finals?
It's got to be 90s. I want to say, I don't know, 30 years?
It was the year 2000. They've got the third longest drought in the sport. It's only behind the Wizards and the Hornets, like the real bottom of the barrel stuff. And the loudest and biggest Knicks season, or the last two seasons, the loudest and biggest this century, eliminated by an 8, eliminated by a 6, barely squeaked past a 7. Mm-hmm. Those are the two loudest seasons in the Knicks history this century. And good God, did ESPN soak that shit in bias. I don't blame Pacers fans for being an unholy kind of upset at how that became a celebration of the Knicks, even while the Pacers, Stugotz, are putting together through 3 quarters the best offensive performance that there's been in a Game 7 since 1963.
Right.
They miss no shots.
Mm-hmm.
How is that possible that the Pacers, is it just because the Knicks were injured? Is it just because the Knicks were playing a bunch of substitute players that shouldn't have been on the court that the Pacers were able to go through the entirety of that game missing like 4 or 5 shots when the game was being decided?
I mean, the Knicks have been doing that the entire series. They've been short. Their bench has been shortened. Randall's been hurt, and they played fine. They made it to a Game 7 on their home court. The Pacers had a great night. I mean, that's it. The Pacers had a great shooting night, a legendary shooting night, the greatest shooting night in the history of the NBA playoffs. There's not much you could do about it when you consider the fact that they had that night and the Knicks are depleted. They just are. I mean, everyone's hurt. Now, listen, it was a great season for the Knicks, and I'm tired of people making fun of the fans. Like, the fans got caught up in a great moment. There were great moments throughout this playoff run, if you want to call it a playoff run, into the Eastern Conference semifinals. But enough knocking Knicks fans, okay? They were loud. They were boisterous. Why? We haven't been there in a while, and because Jalen Brunson provided us with some of the greatest moments in NBA playoff history. He did. I mean, for us. For us. For us. I deserve it.
What happened to the Mecca being hard to play in, and you don't want to play in there in a Game 7 and the 6 seed?
This is why you don't want Game 7, Dan.
Scared.
Right.
Well, if you have confidence in your team and you're better than the other team, you should want Game 7.
Awful take.
We had no confidence in our team. What we had confidence in was the Mecca, was the fans, was that building. There is food flying out of my mouth right now. The Sphere, Dana.
What happened to the Mecca being a hard place to play? And
it is a hard place to play. It wasn't yesterday. I mean,
it's a pretty good time for it to be a hard place to play.
Yeah.
That would have been a good time to summon whatever that is.
The Mecca choke, Dan.
I mean, It was awfully quiet is all I'm saying. When I'm hearing Isaiah Jackson miss a free throw so that the Pacers can merely be up 19 and everyone's really happy that the Pacers have missed a free throw, they got to within 5.
Oh, that run, though. That building was rocking.
That was the Mecca. Pulling the Knicks to within 6, I think, at one point.
But what happened then? But what happened
the Mecca
after
got
that?
tired, Dan.
Yeah, did they?
Yeah.
Well, I did feel bad for Brunson. They were picking him up full court, and the intent throughout was just to bury him in fatigue. I thought Stugotz something interesting last night. Obviously, you can't go wrong if you're a coach and you play Jokic all the minutes. But he was exhausted. And the reason they got all those rebounds and all those offensive rebounds, I mean, they might have gotten them if he wasn't exhausted. He was exhausted because he was playing all the minutes, and guys that size don't play all the minutes. And at the end of the game, when that game was being decided, you saw the Timberwolves go up 12-2 because they kept getting second chances because Jokic couldn't keep all those giants. They looked look awfully small when Jokic is tired. When
Yes.
Jokic is fatigued, all of a sudden you're looking around, hey, where's their power forward? Like, where's somebody
Where's Aaron Gordon?
Where's somebody
Yes.
who's going to grab it? Where's Michael Porter? Where's someone who's going to grab a rebound?
Given the nature of how he shoots the ball, I thought it would be very difficult to tell whether or not Jokic has his legs under him, because he never gets lift anyways. But by the end, they were pretty tired shots. And watching Jokic very closely last year, really for the first time, I noticed, man, 5 minutes into this game, Jokic looks tired. And then his secret to the game was he would just maintain that level of fatigue the entire time.
He always looks tired.
No, but he always looks like kind of tired, but he never crosses the threshold. Last night, we crossed the threshold. Dude looked gassed in ways that I've never seen before.
This is what I will tell you, though, as people talk about, is Anthony Edwards the face of the league, and what happens to another one-time champion, Stugotz? Not enough people are going to talk about the decision to play Jokic all of the minutes, and in the fourth quarter, Minnesota rebounded 70% of its misses.
Yeah.
Like, when they come back from 20 and Denver can't score, because Denver being in that series, Stugotz, because of the Minnesota defense, the 30th ranked offense, if we put what they did in this series in the regular season, they would have been one of the worst offenses in the league. They don't do well when they score fewer than 100 points. How is it that we don't get more expertise in the coverage that focuses on defense while we obsess about offense all of the time, Stugotz?
Who wants to focus on defense, Dan? Honestly.
Well, that's the reason Minnesota won, though. Like, you might not want to focus on it. You can focus on all the other reasons that you think they won, but the reason they won is because they wore the hell out of Jokic with their big people, just like Juju said. I assume that's why Juju's dancing. Juju, don't throw your hands up as if you haven't been dancing for 7 minutes.
I mean,
I'm
Dan,
just a humble participant here, guys. I'm just happy to be alive.
Sure you are. I mean, you're making a great point. The Nuggets had 37 points in the second half. Think about that. 37 points in the second half.
Well, I want to ask you something about how the sport is changing, because I will say to you, get used to the idea that a team will come back from 15 down in a Game 7. That's the first time that that's happened. It's the first time it's happened on the road, but get used to that. Once the three-pointer becomes that kind of important, you're going to get these wild shifts in scores, because it didn't mean much that Denver was up 58-38 in the first half. It didn't mean much that Barkley and others were saying, get Gobert off the court, because he can't do anything to defend Jokic. But clearly, them throwing Reed, Karl Anthony Towns, and Gobert at Jokic presents a set of problems that no one else in the league can present for Denver. Nobody makes Denver look like that. Miami with Bam Adebayo did some of that last year and didn't have the offense to overcome it and lost in 5 games. That's not something that you see from a championship level offense. And the thing that I wanted to ask you that's also changing now, the era of the super team was great for the winning of championships. But now, in a sport that is traditionally super predictable, you have a 5, a 6, a 3, and a 1, and you're going to have your 6th champion in 6 years. And each time they win the championship, they tend to break apart, too. Toronto is in no way in any realm what they were with Kawhi Leonard and Siakam. And I always heard that dynasties were seen as bad for the sport, but I don't think that this is better. I like it. I wouldn't have liked Jokic winning 3 or 4 straight titles. I don't think that would have been fun for anybody. I think it would have felt a little bit like San Antonio winning the titles, where people,
boring.
Lil Wayne can't even explain. He's just like, I don't like Jokic's game. I don't like watching any of that. That's not for me. That unstoppable excellence. That's not how I want basketball to look. Is 6 champions in 6 years good for the sport?
Well, the ratings would indicate no. I know that they're in a different place, but sports across the board are up, and the NBA is struggling. Some of that's due to the sport changing, but the poison that met the super teams such as the Miami Heat and the Golden State Warriors kind of scared players away from it. It scared Kevin Durant away from winning other titles because he wanted to do his own thing, and not a lot of people are comfortable being the bad guy. I don't think this is great in a vacuum when you had the Spurs having their run, Lakers mixed in there, the Heat, dating back to the Rockets and Bulls. You always longed for a day where there was a little bit more parity in the sport, and now that we have it, I'm not sure I love it.
You guys sound like losers.
I am one. I mean,
Jokic had 4 rebounds in the second half. 4 in the second half, and they just came at him with wave after wave of just giant bodies.
I understand what you're saying. He was tired. They wore him down. They have 3 guys they could throw at him. He did have 34 points and 19 rebounds
understood.
in a Game 7.
I know, but Stugotz, their offense was bad.
I know.
And it doesn't matter if you're getting to 90 points against the number 1 defense in the sport. You're going to give up the 20-point lead. You allowed way too many second-chance shots. And Denver's championship was over the moment that Rudy Gobert hit that turnaround jumper.
There we are.
I
am going to tell my grandchildren's children about the night Rudy Gobert shot a ball into the heavens, and it came down not touching a net.
It was unbelievable. It's the way. I did not have Jokic being slain that way. If you could have predicted for me all the ways, if you had come to me, I don't know, 24 months ago and said, look, this is what's going to happen. This guy who keeps getting played off the court because he no longer fits. He's a dinosaur trying to fight against fighter jets. It doesn't fit on the court the way the sport is changing. But this is what's going to happen in a couple of years. Jokic, who's the 3-time MVP, is going to put down his sword because Rudy Gobert's hitting a turnaround jumper that he's floating higher than the shot clock because he's panicked and there's nowhere else to put the ball except throw it toward the basket because the shot clock is expiring.
Enjoy your horses.
But you tell me, if you're Jokic in that game.
Evil voice.
But think about this, though. You're exhausted. You're sitting here saying, oh, really? Again with the 6th man of the year with a putback. Again with Carl. But I've kept Gobert out of here, and now it's Karl Anthony Towns who's going to have the putback. You're exhausted. You want to go see your horses. It's been 2 long years. And then that shot goes in. You're like, I'm going to keep running up and down the court, but I'm thinking of vacation now. I'll keep going. I'll keep trying.
Going through the motions.
I will physically go through the motions. You will see me motioning as if my season is not over. But once that falls from the sky, you've got to be like, okay, this is meant for me. I am destined.
It's not in the cards,
to just go rest somewhere for the remainder of the season. But getting back to Stugotz's beloved New York Knicks, they wasted the Burks game.
They did. I told you, 20 points any given night.
Hey, Stugotz was right.
Thank you.
Holy Stugotz was right.
Stugotz was also right to feel down, even though he was up 3-2.
Hey, Stugotz was right. Holy Stugotz was right.
The thing that's crushing is to have the expectation of this is going to be the most electric building we've had this century, and then nothing all game long. Pushed back again and again by Miles Turner.
By shooting.
Whoever that was on the front row, they did this. To whoever Tyrese Halliburton was talking to, I didn't know if it was Sam Morril. I don't know who is, but that person is responsible for the Knicks' demise. I'm saying it on wax.
I mean, all those funny people from New York we brought through this show, and to all be undone by Andrew Nembhard.
Right. I hope we got Mero, Sam Morril, everybody on here today, right?
Sam Morril is going to be on here in a little while. Yes. I'd like to circle back, though, on East Coast bias, Stugotz. And I've been talking about this for a while because one of the places that I saw this change was on Pardon the Interruption, where I see Michael Wilbon tucking his Cubs jersey into his jeans and going out there and throwing a first pitch. And I was like, oh, okay, we're doing the sports journalists are allowed to have allegiances thing.
That's the day journalism died, Dano. It is.
Put it on the poll, Juju, at Batard Show. When Wilbon threw out the first pitch at a Cubs game, is that the day journalism died? But yesterday on the show, and I'm not going to go back into the well that I've gone into very often that gets people upset about how the power shift has changed at ESPN, but at least in part, because Stephen A. Smith is a very public Knicks fan. The coverage of that game beforehand, Stugotz, was Spike Lee and motivational speech from Stephen A. Smith as a Knicks fan, and it was very celebrating all things New York, the same way that the big networks celebrate the Cowboys and the things that get ratings. But to me, if I'm a Pacers fan, the part that pisses me off is the last 4 minutes of that game, a historic game for the Pacers, only Breen every once in a while would bring it back to the Pacers. It was the Knicks that they were talking about the whole time. And if I were a Pacer fan, I'd be mad at how slanted that coverage was.
But Pacer fans won the series. They're moving on to the Eastern Conference Finals. They have the last laugh. Who cares about that stuff? No, Dan, the story yesterday, win or lose, was about the Knicks. It was about those fans. It was about that building. That was the story headed into the game. The story changed once the game got started. But before the game, what do you want ESPN to cover? The Pacers?
Stugotz, when you say who cares, sports fans care about perceived disrespect. And this was disrespectful. Like, I'm not a fan of either of the teams I'm watching. I see one winning, the other losing, and the one that's being talked about is the losers as if they're the winners when they shit the bed at home, although there were valid reasons.
I saw it on Awful Announcing. Bob Myers was asked at halftime, what are you seeing from this Pacer team to come out so electrified in that first half? And he immediately talks about OG Anunoby, and it becomes a soliloquy about the New York Knicks, even though he was asked directly about what he's seeing from the Pacers.
You tell me how I'm supposed to feel if I'm a Pacers fan, and this is the third different roster that's made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and you're still talking to me about the Knicks, who have the longest drought outside of the Wizards and Hornets.
I get it, though. That like we've detailed the struggles and ratings from where they used to be. One thing that definitely rates for the NBA is the New York Knicks, and ESPN now is a propaganda machine for the broadcast they own the rights to. And what is getting people in, they see the metrics. I guarantee you they're going to talk Dallas Cowboys today on First Take. Because they have the metrics to support. They need to be talking Dallas Cowboys every day.
Mike, fast forward to the Eastern Conference Finals. The story is going to be about the Celtics. Win or lose, it's going to be about Boston. Dan, no one cares what anyone in Evansville thinks about the coverage, okay? No one does, okay? Gary, Indiana, Fort Wayne, Indiana, please, okay? Nobody cares what those people think about the coverage. They are moving on to the Eastern Conference Finals. That's it. That's enough for them. ESPN did the right thing. They cover the right team, the right city, because that was the story headed into the game.
I would dispute that on a couple of different fronts on behalf of Indiana fans. One of them would be this. The Knicks had two turnovers while getting slaughtered in that first half. The Pacers got one free throw. Like midway through the second quarter, one free throw. Do you know how hard it is to win on the road under those circumstances by blowout? It's not that the Knicks played poorly. It's just they endured a historic onslaught that was being ignored because we were talking about how injured the Knicks were and how bad you felt that now Jalen Brunson is out with a fractured hand.
You mentioned the East Coast bias, and I think we have a Sunday night bias in that what happened on Saturday in that sport was also really rad. Kyrie Irving is now 14-0 in closeout games, and that game looked over. And they come all the way back, and Luka Doncic appears to be the kind of irresistible force with a triple-double that maybe Jokic was last year. And for me, that is the story. I mean, Luka Doncic getting emotional talking about Kyrie Irving, who very quietly has become a leader on that team, has fit in nicely, has not at all been a distraction, has been that piece, and is now fulfilling the promise.
It's crazy.
He's doing for the Mavs what he was supposed to do for the Boston Celtics.
There are two bits of analysis that everybody whiffed on in the new NBA. It was the Gobert trade that everyone got wrong, and the idea that Dallas wasn't a good fit for Kyrie Irving. You mentioned OKC, Joklahoma City, Choklahoma City, and now your hearts are Broklahoma City.
Bars. Wow.
Wow.
Mixtape coming soon.
That was good.
They had at 1 a.m. a bunch of fans at the airport like it's a college town. And when you say who cares, Stugotz,
right.
That's who cares.
Okay, great.
Okay, but
I'm talking about Terre Haute, Indiana.
But you don't care that way anymore, and you would care. You would care that way if you'd won.
Listen, I've never cared enough to meet my team at the airport after they've lost. Actually, I've never cared enough to meet my team at the airport after they've won.
You're not emblematic,
Dan.
here.
People who show up to the airport late at night to applaud their team coming off a plane because they had a good season.
It's weird.
Please, it's sad. Yeah.
Don't do this, brothers. Y'all teams are losers. That's it. Don't lash out. Y'all are at home. That is all that's happening here.
It's a fair criticism to bring up the lack of Pacers coverage, but this show doing it is like we covered the Knicks more than anyone during the
but
season.
wait a minute.
Guiltiest party.
Absolutely.
WFAT,
Absolutely. We are the guiltiest party, and hypocrisy is looking at me in the mirror. But I will say, it was only to get to today. Understand that.
And audience acquisition.
No, understand that I knew today was coming at some point this season.
You knew you were getting there.
I knew I was going to get there somehow. I was going to get this day.
Damn you.
There was no chance. All the other teams could be as injured as the Knicks, and the Knicks were not going to have a day where I was going to eat it at the end. That's not what was going to happen. The whole of that was strategic. We turned into WFAT. We got bloated.
WFAT. Speaking of WFAT T-shirts are right now available on LebatardAF.com. Go get you 7 of them.
Yep.
WFAT.
Fire Tom Thibodeau, trade OG, get rid of him, don't re-sign him. Hartenstein as well. Just light up the phone lines today, boys, and enjoy your 20 share. Oh,
you will be able to talk. I'm a little scared at what's going to happen live with Sam Morril because he's not going to be happy. He's going to be running dark, but he's going to give I'm imagining, because he's positivity guy about this team, I'm assuming that what he's going to do is just be proud of that team's heart and fight, which it was overmanned, outmanned. It was not healthy enough, but I thought the home stadium was supposed to get you a game.
Yeah.
I thought it was supposed to get you an important
It got
game.
us game 5.
They have very valid injury concerns, and they probably would have been smoked by Boston, who I think we can now look at it. What a flat track they have to get back to the NBA Finals.
They have to win it, right?
They've got to beat the Pacers without Porzingis, and without Porzingis, Mike, you laugh, but without Porzingis, they're a small team, they're a different team, they're a bit positionless.
What I'm laughing is I'm remembering the YouTube cold open where Stugotz was formulating this, all the pressures on the Timberwolves take. What are you talking about?
Wow.
If Tatum doesn't do it now,
right?
Like if he doesn't do it this time,
if not now, when?
We better crush him. I'm talking LeBron 2010. Crush him.
I want a Tatum Edwards final so I can crush somebody. I mean, that's what I'm looking for.
I want to crush.
On Dallas.
I want to crush the Knicks doctors for doing that to Anunoby for that result. That guy's not going to be able to see straight for several months because he played those minutes trying to get that Willis Reed moment. How do you waste the Willis Reed moment? I don't believe, in all honesty, Stugotz, then you can have something happen to your team when you're going in with the expectation of the Mecca will win us one. It's a game 7. The Mecca will carry us even though we're undermanned. I don't think there's something that can neutralize that more than me saying this sentence. The Pacers had more points through 3 quarters than any team since the 1963 Celtics.
Amazing.
The idea that you think your home crowd, that you would be motivated by the epic fart after Game 5 and that you would literally run out of gas in Game 7 and get run over by the Pacers putting together a historic shooting performance. What happened between Game 1 and the rest of the games to Halliburton? Because I didn't want to object to the expertise of Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes when they said he's not a number 1. But when he was healthy this year, he looked to me like a number 1. He looked to me like someone who could shoot from anywhere on the court, even though he's a distributor. And I'm not sure going forward if I'm willing to say that Halliburton's not going to keep getting better, given that he tried to come back early from injury just so that he can hit that performance bonus that he has if he's all NBA. If you're all NBA and you're the lead player on a team, like the Pacers, a team that's in the Eastern Conference Finals, you're a number 1.
You think he is a number 1 or can be a number 1?
I'm saying that I would like that.
He is
he's the number 1 on
now.
that team. Yeah.
I would like that at the top of my team if they're going to play that way. If the way they're going to play is be the most explosive offense.
For a game, Dan.
But it's not for a game. Stugotz, it's been all season. Their offense has been extraordinary.
I understand that. But what they did even with that said, what they did in Game 7 was historical. It was amazing.
Stugotz, Halliburton's younger than the entire Knicks core.
He's a really fun player to watch catch fire because of the nature of his shooting form. When he starts feeling it and it just bombs away with such a high arch on it,
it's baffling.
It is really fun to see.
It's one of the many evolutions in the sport that continues to confuse me. How it's a good shot for a guy to roll to his left on the 3-point line and just throw up some Gobert bullshit that just sky raindrop, and then it's in the basket, and you're like, what the hell is that?
But you ask, how could he be, or is he a number 1? Or you think he's a number 1, Dan? He had games where he had 8 points, 13 points, 15 points.
The only reason I don't think he's a number 1 is just because the top 12 number 1s are so good that they make it so that we're spoiled that guy's range, because Stugotz, the sport has changed. To have that kind of range is an uncommon value. And so he might score differently than others. And by the way, he loves assists, but he is the centerpiece of why it is that offense does what it does. But they also traded for Siakam because they knew that he needed somebody next to him that Brunson doesn't have.
You mentioned Siakam, and I'm recalling what you did at the start of the show where you mentioned Tyrese Halliburton made it to a conference finals before Joel Embiid. I got this from a Pascal Siakam Stan account. It's Siakam Spin V2. Embiid was drafted in 2014. Pascal Siakam was studying to be a priest in 2012, found basketball, got drafted in 2016, won a G League Finals MVP, was a role player, won Most Improved, made his first conference finals, won a championship, made an All-Star and All-NBA teams, got traded, turned 30, and made another conference finals, all before Embiid went to his very first conference final.
It's a bit crazy to say, and at no point with the expectations of being a number 1. Always being a number 2 for pressure purposes, unlike Embiid, who is the only thing in the last 2 years to unravel at the feet of the Knicks that way. To see the Sixers not advance into these Eastern Conference Finals when if I put that Sixers roster next to that Pacers roster, and I'm giving you a coach in the Pacers, Stugotz, who hadn't won a playoff series since 2011.
Right.
That style of play. I understand that you're making fun of Gary, Indiana.
I'm not making fun of them. I'm just
Right,
saying don't object to the coverage. You
some
won. Who
gangsters in
cares?
Gary,
Right.
though, big brother. I'm just warning you. There's some
Oh, I
gangsters
know.
in Gary and
No.
Michael Jackson from Gary.
I know.
I would not be doing what Stugotz is doing for a number of reasons, but one of them is why wouldn't you want to have the style of play the Pacers play? I would love to have the style of play of my team. In fact, I'm willing to say that style of play, just aesthetically, give me a 6 seed that plays that way instead of a 2 seed, just for my team that plays like the Knicks. If I know that neither of them are going to have a chance, but one of them's going to have a chance if they make all of their threes on a given night.
The Pacers during the regular season this year in the Eastern Conference had the highest frequency of open shots and the best effective field goal percentage on those open shots. And that's what you saw in the first quarter last night when they ran the Knicks out of the building. They had 39 points in the first quarter without taking a free throw. That's how open they were for all of these shots.
I love watching them play basketball. It's confusing to me to watch them play playoff basketball, especially in that building, because what I'm used to in that building is the score 78-75, and Anthony Carter has to make a shot that goes in from behind the backboard because everything has been dragged totally into the mud, and they're just going up and down the court at turbo speed and doing a bunch of things near the rim.
Wait, so you're excited for the next series? You wanted Pacers and Celtics.
If you give me a choice, excuse me, Stugotz, I'm sorry, but I would have liked just to see what Atlanta and Indiana could do against Boston, because give me the games in the 120s and the 130s and the 140s. Don't drag it into the mud.
We haven't mentioned the secret weapon, the most powerful weapon in Indiana. Timothy John McConnell.
Enough of him.
When he starts pumping up the crowd,
It's
when he
unbelievable.
makes all of his points are loud as hell. His rebounds is loud. His charges he takes is loud. Salute to Timothy for keeping them boys in line.
TJ McConnell, if I was playing against it, he did this to the Heat in a game they needed late in the regular season. He's exasperating to play against because it's Arnold from accounting. Taking off his tie, getting on the court. How tall is TJ McConnell? Because he's taller than he looks, but he's not very tall, because everybody on that court is taller than you think they are.
He's 6'1". You're saying he's a tall 6'1"?
I'm saying that next to you, he would look very tall on that court. He does not look very tall. He'd be taller than most of the people who work on our show. The majority of people on our show are not as tall as tiny TJ McConnell.
TJ McConnell's 32 years old.
Wow.
His teeth are like 10 months.
He's got a perfect haircut at all times. It looks like he just stepped out of the shower, and I don't
Or the
understand.
dentist office.
I don't understand how everybody isn't blocking his shot, how all of those mid-range jumpers are going in, because that is a lifetime of survival of the fittest. That guy has learned how to shoot over the outstretched fingers of someone taller than him since he was a toddler. That guy's been working on that for the last 30 years. The hands near him don't bother him. And it is exasperating to try and play defense against him, because what's he doing? Oh, he's in the key again. There's another 8-footer from TJ McConnell. I've guarded all the other people who look like basketball players on the court, but the guy who's an architect got me with a mid-range jumper, and I'm exasperated. How did we feel about celebrity sadness yesterday? Photos of Spike Lee. They got Ben Stiller at one time picking at his nose in an embarrassing moment. Chris Cody, who did you see out there that gave you a feeling as a Heat fan of the only good feeling left for Heat fans? It's rooting against other people to lose.
It was between sad Spike Lee with his hands under his chin, or it was Jon Stewart just looking like he was about to cry. But John Starks trying to be the official a few times in the game was also funny, trying to make calls that were clearly wrong.
Their alumni row is really funny.
Yeah.
It's because it's a bunch of guys that didn't do it either.
Marcus Camby.
Correct. Yes. But they went to the finals.
I saw Marcus Camby described as Knicks legend, and I was like, ooh.
I mean,
It's all we got.
Legend
I
is
think
doing
so.
a lot of work there.
I think so,
Put it
though.
on the poll,
Look at those
Juju.
losers on the screen.
Put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Is Marcus Camby a Knicks legend? Yes or no? Because I really do feel like we're diluting what the word legend means.
The most legendary thing. Salute to Marcus Camby. I'm a big Marcus Camby fan, but this has just outgrown everything. The meme with him doing this.
Yep.
The Candy Man.
That became like a Heat Twitter rallying cry, the Camby thing.
Speaking of the Heat, and Dan mentioned that Heat fans are rooting for other teams to lose, Indiana and the Celtics, Mike, because you have a history with both those teams. Who would you rather see advance here?
Oh, Indiana. Yeah, Indiana. I think it would be really funny if Boston fails again, and I'm not going to let Mike Scherr do what he did in his last appearance, which was try to couch that making it to the finals would be good enough. No, this franchise has only won one title while I've been alive. They got to do it.
Not
I gotta
only
see it.
Not only won one title, right, Stugotz? This is not unlike what the Cowboys get in football, where they get all of the great broadcasting jobs because of the star on the helmet, even though it didn't produce very many titles after any titles after Troy Aikman. The people who have eaten off of that one title, whether it's Kendrick Perkins or Doc Rivers, when you can make the argument that the one title the Celtics have won this year represents, or this century represents an underachievement from what is supposed to be our most historic franchise. There are a lot of people who've gotten good jobs off of the one title that they've won and gotten media careers because they basically won as much as Kawhi Leonard won the one time, as much as Jokic has won the one time. It's pretty impressive to see the amount of work that Doc Rivers gets despite all the other failure around
he's
the
gotten
one
7
title.
good jobs off of that title.
Yeah, I got to say, watching the Pacers, nothing really bothers me because all those players came and went. The Heat don't have a rivalry with Halliburton, maybe a little bit with Miles Turner, but I will say when I see Carlisle on the sideline, that does kind of irk me.
Yeah.
Do you realize, Stugotz, that if the Mavs win, the highest seed the Celtics would have seen would have been the Cavs? If the Mavs win that series, I don't know, because like I've said, it has been until the recent changes to the sport a very predictable sport. But 5, 6, 3, and a 1 as seeds, I don't remember the last time I saw that. And while I think the Celtics have been overwhelmingly better than everyone all year, not without Porzingis. They really need Porzingis in order to win the championship. This is a dangerous proposition. Sam Morril cannot be happy right now. He is proud of his team, but he runs dark, and the last time we had him on after a loss, it was just simply dangerous. And he's got a sly smile on his face, and I've got to be honest, I get scared when he's got a sly smile on his face, because what can come from behind that mask is dangerous, and it is professional, and it can be funny and sharp, but it can also be violent and unpleasant, and he'll burn everything here down. He doesn't care, because he is hurt today, I imagine, but proud of his team. He's our senior Knicks correspondent. He's the commissioner of fandom. He's got shows coming up in Lexington, Kentucky, in Southern California, in Atlantic City, Rochester, Baltimore, here in Doral, in Miami, and same time tomorrow is the Netflix special. Brutal the way that went down yesterday, Sam, in that you know that building hasn't felt like that in a while, and then Anunoby comes out all drugged up, and you get what you need from him and can never get back into the game because the Pacers put up a historic shooting performance.
Well, look, Anunoby, I give him a lot of credit for coming out there, but you just said get what we need. I mean, you know, it's like popping a Viagra and giving you 2 pumps. He hit 2 nice shots, but it wasn't, you know, it's not the difference maker. He gave us 5 minutes. He couldn't walk. So, you know, anyone who says this next season wasn't a success, including Jalen, we're very proud of our team. But you can't say this Pacers team, although a great shooting team, would have beat the Knicks if they were fully healthy. Taking 7 games to put us away, missing, over half our team. Stop shaking your head, asshole. And then,
which is the asshole? Which one of them?
Whoever was shaking his head right there.
That was Juju.
Good to meet you, brother. But I cut clips of you calling Joel Embiid soft as hell. He had a bad eye, bad back, bad knee, bad body, and you was celebrating, dancing on his grave, talking about how good the damn Knicks was. Now that y'all lost with some damn injuries, now you want some sympathy. Get your ass out of here.
One guy was good enough to put up a 50-piece. The Knicks were missing 6 players by the end of this series. If you put on Ocean's 11 and there's no Matt Damon, no Brad Pitt, you're just like, what the hell? This movie's not as good. No shit. We're missing over half our rotation. OG was the answer on Pascal Siakam, and he couldn't put up big nights against him. But once Josh Hart is guarding him, no shit, he's going to get cooked in the post. He's much shorter. So, I'm sorry the Sixers lost. I'm sorry. Joel Embiid, hell of a player. 1 injury, but he was able to still play. And you had a fresh whole team. We didn't have Randall. We didn't have OG this series. We didn't have Mitchell. Injuries are a real thing. All right, well, enjoy having Embiid never healthy for a playoff series, because he never will be. He's Mr. Glass from Unbreakable. The Knicks will be back. I say we run it back. I hope we do. I think healthy, we're pretty damn dangerous, so I hope they keep it together.
Cynthia,
Isaiah, back OG.
Cynthia, can you please put together for me a banner that says, no way the Pacers beat us if we're healthy in Game 7, so that we can send it to Sam and have him put it up in his apartment?
And Dan, when you said real fans want a Game 7, this is why I told you were a jerk off. What are you talking about? Real fans want to win. We wanted to put this away in 6, obviously. I told you I'd be there if there was a Game 7. I was there. Tough game to be at, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Sam, I didn't say that you should want a Game 7. I said that if you have real confidence in being the better team, why would you be afraid of a Game 7 at home?
Do you believe that injuries are not a real thing?
I believe they're a real thing for everybody who's playing basketball this year, and that no other fan base ever wants to hear about your fan base's injuries.
That's fair, but it's a reality. And I think we run it back next year. Hopefully we're healthy. Hopefully we bring back OG and Hardenstein. I think they were important to the team.
Sam, I actually realized this series was over when they went to the OG moment. There's only so many times you can go for a Willis Reed moment. They already had one with Jalen Brunson in Game 2 at the Mecca. And so I knew the series was over when they went for another Willis Reed moment, and OG came out looking like me. Like, he looked like he was 93 years old. He could barely walk.
Barely walk, and he hit 2 big shots. But you know when he couldn't barely walk? When he threw a dunk down on Joel Embiid. That was pretty fun. But
I'm a Celtics fan.
Let's
look, he's a hell of a player, and look, bad luck is a thing. It'll happen, and we're grateful for. Here's the thing that's funny is people do have some grudge against New York fans being happy because any other team is this depleted from injury, you're celebrating the resilience. You're like, holy shit, they really fought with half their team. But for some reason, not with the Knicks. Shout out Alec Burks. Great series despite us having just no defensive answer for a sharpshooting Pacers team. And we just didn't have the size. We were getting killed inside by Siakam so much. And their shooting was great yesterday. You have to give your hats off to their shooting. But I just don't think they get those looks if we have a healthy OG, if we have a healthy Mitchell Robinson, obviously. I mean, the defense is they got good looks on us. They're killing us.
Let's play some video here for Sam and see what it is that delights him or agitates him from all of the things yesterday. Let's begin with Stephen A. Smith making his entrance into MSG. And to be fair to Stephen A. Smith, the Knicks didn't have enough healthy star power. He'd be like their second or third most famous Knick. So he should be dressed that way, and he should walk in as if it's his building. But I imagine it made Sam crazy to watch this.
I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I mean, it is funny that he looks like a photographer in a safari in the 1950s for some reason. But no, I like that he's fans should be there. I'm glad that we have fans in the building, but I don't think he's good luck. I mean, is anyone arguing that we're like, oh, good, we're good? I don't think it's a great sign that Stephen A's there. I don't think I was like, oh, this is the juice we need to get us over the top. I don't think Isaiah Hartenstein's playing like, oh, good, the guy who never believed in me. I don't think he's helping us. He ain't Ben Stiller or Spike Lee. He ain't like a guy we're like, oh, cool. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the injuries, as I said. It doesn't really matter. Can we stop?
You sound defeated.
It's a fair point. It's a fair point. The injuries are a fair point. It's not up for dispute. But let's see if we can play Paul Pierce here. This one surely will get Sam upset. Surely this Paul Pierce stomping on Jalen Brunson's jersey will surely upset Sam.
What, homie? What?
I mean, this guy is. This guy's in his mid-40s. What is he doing? It's just weird. Why does he hate Jalen Brunson? And then he's defended by saying it's about the Knicks. Paul, keep eating shortbread cookies. You're about 2 packs away from looking like Charles.
Come on.
No, Dan, it's weird.
There's no fat shaming here on WFAT.
But it's weird. He has no history with the Knicks. Like, what does he care?
Let my boy cook.
Paul Pierce.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the last time the Knicks played Paul Pierce and the Celtics in a series, we actually beat him.
Touche.
Let's play for Sam. All of the Knicks appearing yesterday at the game. They were all dressed in black because they were at a funeral for the Pacers here. They all came in dressed in black, including Tibbs. You have to do better than that if you're going to come in black.
You know what's even better about that? That was Game 6.
It's a fun.
No, look, how about Tyrese Halliburton wearing a different outfit coming in than leaving yesterday because he's got no confidence even against a half-healthy Knicks. Tyrese leaves in a Reggie Miller choke shirt. He shows up in, I'm sure, some Prada runway horseshit that looked oversized and ridiculous on him. I didn't see what he came in. But the fact that he had a second outfit in case they won shows how little confidence Tyrese has, even against a depleted Knicks team. So congrats, you beat half our team. I'll give you half a congratulations.
I love it.
Next year, I can't wait to see him again. And I can't wait to cook their ass. Just got to bring back OG and enough of this footage. Let's bring back OG and Isaiah, and it's a wrap. I mean, we will beat them up. Siakam ain't putting up those numbers against a healthy team.
How about
4 front court players missing is insane. It's insane defensively. It's insane for your depth. So
You were in the building, but you probably didn't catch much of the pregame. Some people in Indiana and elsewhere are bothered by how much Knicks bias soaked the entirety of the broadcast. Here's Stephen A. Doing basically a pep rally for the Knicks.
They ain't here right now. You understand what's at stake. It's been since 2000 that we've been in the conference finals. We've waited 24 years for this moment right here. OG Anunoby is back. Josh Hart's going to play. When you talk about Game 7, it comes down to grinding. It comes down to guts. It comes down to who won it. Come up in here. Come up in here, Spike Lee. You come right here. Come right here. This orange is blue skies, baby. This is what it's all about right here. This is what we've been waiting for right here. It's Game 7. This is what it's about. Get that. Put it back on it. The New York Knicks. It's about grinding. It's about guts. It's about heart. That's what games are. And Clive just walked by. This is what it's about. This is what we waited for right here. One game, 48 minutes. Orange and blue skies, baby. Orange and blue skies. That is what it's all about, Bob. Will guard in Game 7. I'm going back to my seat. Right.
It's about me.
Play that at my funeral.
He's not a real, as I've said a million times, he's shown up this year for the first time. So is he a real fan? God, why you show me this, Spike? Poor Spike. Spike's seen it all, man. He's seen it all. Stephen A., enough about
he hasn't seen a title.
He has. How old do you think Spike is? He has seen a title.
Well, we haven't seen him watching a title being won.
That's you weren't alive. But it existed. I'm sorry it was in black and white. It still exists. You also deny the Holocaust? That happened too.
No.
Yeah, I'm going there, Dan.
No, I didn't. I knew this
feels like a lash out, Sam.
I knew you were going to escalate it to there.
Yeah.
You cannot be trusted to not.
All this because he had to count on Alec Burks.
Hey, Alec Burks looked good though. You got to admit. For being this depleted, he did look pretty damn good.
Bring him back.
You're absolutely
Mr. Game
right.
7.
He's got shows coming up in Lexington, Kentucky, in Southern California, in Rochester, Doral, Baltimore. Same time tomorrow is the Netflix special. Let's leave him with some Tracy Morgan here. Tracy Morgan was very excitable during the game yesterday.
This town is going to be fire, fire, fire.
We've been a little quiet around here, Stugotz, recently, even though sports fans more than ever, I think, are obsessed with the finances of sport. Mm-hmm. We've been quiet about what Tua is going to sign for. Jared Goff just got an amount of money that makes him the second highest paid quarterback in the sport after Burrow annually, over $50 million a year. The Jags, after seeing that, are said to be all in on Trevor Lawrence, wanting $50 million a year. And if Trevor Lawrence and Jared Goff whether they're system quarterbacks in the case of Goff or whether they're undetermined value in the case of Trevor Lawrence, if those two quarterbacks are going to get more than $50 million a year, and now Jeremy Fowler is reporting that Tua has missed some OTAs and is unhappy with the initial offer, Tua's going to get more money than people think he deserves. Like, Tua's going to get an amount of money that Trevor Lawrence is going to get and that Jared Goff is going to get, and people react to those contracts the same way they will react to Tua, saying, wait a minute, should he be one of the top 5 highest paid quarterbacks annually, even though he's going to be?
Diana Rossini is reporting that Tua showed up to OTAs today, so that's a good sign, I think, for Dolphin fans. Yeah, he's better than those guys. Like last year, he had a better season than Jared Goff. He had a better season than Trevor Lawrence. He led the NFL in passing yards. His rating was 101.1. That is higher than both those quarterbacks. You have to pay the guy. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying Dolphin fans should be comfortable with him making $55 million per season. But you have to slot him in, don't you?
The stuff that becomes complicated here, I don't know how to answer that question, Stugotz, because we're still talking about a quarterback, no matter how quiet it was in this regard last year, who feels to me like more of an injury risk than the other two quarterbacks we're talking about.
But he started 17 games last year. Like, that's what we said. The biggest thing headed into next season was, could Tua stay healthy for an entire season? He did it, Dan, and he played well.
That is correct.
Yes.
But if I'd asked you this question 17 games ago, you would have said, hell no. And you would have said, absolutely not. Mm-hmm. And he's had a year where you're not worried about a concussion happening within a month of another concussion. But there was no quarterback in the sport that we worried more about his health and his brain health than this one. Troy Aikman left the sport because of his brain health. That's how and why he got out. And I, in a salary cap sport, cannot say to you, once you've found a quarterback who has those kinds of numbers, I can't say to you, no, you don't give that quarterback money. But I have more trouble than I ever have in a salary cap sport that has now made it so that you have to have value at that position. It's not just have greatness. You have to have greatness and value so that you could build out the rest of your roster. I have a real hard time with Jared Goff's evaluation, for example. Let's put Tua over here for a second.
All right.
Jared Goff, when he was with Jeff Fisher at the beginning of his career, truly terrible, thought he was going to be out of the league. The numbers were so bad, I didn't think he was going to learn anything. Then McVay comes in there and does with Goff what the Dolphins have done with Tua. It's the same sort of thing. Get a bunch of skill guys around him. But the Dolphins did it when they had Tua at value, when they can afford Tyreek Hill and Waddle because they've got Tua so cheap. The thing that I have trouble with in the evaluation is, and I think even the most ardent Tua supporters would agree with me on this, would he be this anywhere else? Is there another team in the sport that would pay him this way with the personnel that they have that isn't the 1 and 2 receiver that the Dolphins have, and a scheme that makes Mostert at $9 million, you only have to pay him, $9 million for 20-plus touchdowns because you know that any running back with speed you put back there is going to get you the numbers. I have a real hard time with the assessment of value when you tell me that Carson Wentz was once the highest paid quarterback in that sport not that long ago and that Jared Goff is now second.
I'd like to think if you put Tua on the Lions, they're good. They have good skill position players that you would see similar type numbers. I do.
I think every quarterback that has come up for these extensions, outside of maybe Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, we've asked these questions about. Can you invest that much? We've asked it about Josh Allen.
Right.
And really, when someone has had a season like Tua, there is really zero precedent for the team not
If Jalen Hurts
extending
gets
it.
the money, then Tua's got to get the money.
The only time a team has had a quarterback on a really affordable contract that actually did some winning, more winning than they've actually done down here in Miami, was the Browns with Baker Mayfield when they decided to part, and he had an injury-riddled season that wasn't very good, and it made that decision much easier for them. But outside of that, there is very little precedent for a team separating itself from the quarterback. Now, there is a lot of precedent for the team immediately regretting that contract and finding a way to get out from under it. The NFL salary cap is a lie.
Roy,
Hi.
we have waited too long to talk about some pretty important playoff hockey. I was scared of the Tampa Bay Lightning based on their history. I was scared of the Boston Bruins based on the last 2 seasons.
You're scared of the Rangers,
I'm
aren't
scared
you?
of the Rangers because they're better than both of those teams.
Yeah, I'm a bit concerned about this one.
Wow. Concerned.
Whoa!
Wow.
Yeah, this is the big one. This is the big one.
It is the big one.
This is the one we've all been waiting for.
The next one's really the biggest one, but
Yeah,
this is
but
for
we
now,
got
the
we
big
got to
one.
get past this one.
But
to
this
get
is
there,
the
now,
one
don't
you're the most scared of, or no? Is this the one you're most scared of?
we? Out of all the matchups I can think of right now, yes. This
You
is
were
the one.
more scared about the Rangers than potentially the Carolina Hurricanes? Because personally, I was a little bit more nervous about that matchup.
No, I'm more scared about the Rangers because the guys, it's just Sturkin. He's been playing really, really well in these playoffs. So yeah, I'm a bit nervous about this one.
This is a stunning admission from Roy. Roy has never admitted. He's always covered in barbed wire and bravado.
The last month is the most confident I have seen Roy over a month period in all the years I've known him.
Spring in his step,
Yes.
coming into work with something close to the muscles on his face that have atrophied, trying to get into a smile, incapable of it, but you can see that they're trying to get to a smile. And now the Rangers, just because they've been the best all season, right? Like,
President's Trophy.
And the Mecca.
Let's not get it twisted, though. Panthers in 6.
Oh, wow.
but you're concerned.
But I am concerned.
With an asterisk of concern.
Yes.
My bad. Sorry, bro.
A little pinch of salt in there on the concern.
Rangers got a lot of talent. They're President's Trophy winning team for a reason. I think there is a huge talent gulf between the New York Rangers and the Boston Bruins, but they also play a different style. Like, playing Boston really doesn't prepare you at all for what New York brings to the table. However, Florida looked pretty good against Tampa, and I think the game plan for Tampa is the game plan for the New York Rangers. Stay out of the box because this team is very good on the power play, and you're the better team 5-on-5. In fact, there are a few teams that have shown you they can actually hang with you 5v5. So I also think Panthers in 6. I think this is going to be a really good series. Igor Shesterkin is a really formidable goalie. They got a lot of talent. Vinny Trocheck has this insane ability to just really haunt his former teams. They've got really two good top lines. Zibanejad's a really good player. Panarin, who almost signed with the Panthers, he's been phenomenal. Probably deserving of more Hart Trophy conversation around him. Kreider's their all-time postseason points leader.
Saved the season.
He just had a hattie, because they would have gone back to the Mecca after blowing a 3-0 lead. Tremendous, really good defensive lines. They have great rotation, a puck mover on every defensive line, and they're very physical. So it should be a really fun series. Florida is better, though.
I think that people who pick their team in 6, it's only because they're scared of 7.
Let's not do this again, please.
They don't want Game 7.
It worked out for the Pacers.
Let me ask you something. Why would I be nervous about the Florida Panthers going into an arena that is labeled the Garden when you consider the one in Boston is basically our barn now?
Huh.
Roy looking confident over there, even though there is some concern. Can we talk about Kreider and the lawn situation that he had? He comes home. Do you want this on your lawn after you've scored a hat trick? All of your neighbors have thrown their hats on your lawn, and now in the morning you're getting ready to go to work and stuff, and your neighbors are invasive
Jeremy Taché collection
by
too,
throwing all their junk on your.
Who doesn't want that?
On
though?
your lawn.
That's
He
so
looks great.
cool. I mean,
It's like Mike Fuentes. Salute.
Also, get a walkway. I mean, what are we doing here?
That's bizarre. That's a walkway that's usually covered in snow. I want to talk a little bit about the Boston series because those joke people up in Boston decided to throw garbage at the Florida Panthers. Act like you've been there before. This is an original 7 against an original 7, and you throw garbage against our team. That is no way to treat your father. Not at all. You do not treat your dad that way. I can treat my dad that way. You cannot.
You do treat your dad that way.
Chris can treat his dad that way. All right, so not them.
I would never treat my dad.
I think we buried the lead also. We have a fraudulent member, a former member of our cast, Chris Whittingham, who is waving the damn New York Ranger flag high and proud. We need to get his ass on the show this week and chastise him.
I've texted him F you a lot over the last few days. But just if we may, let's concentrate just a little bit more on the Boston series because the Florida Panthers dominated that 6-game series, a 6-game series in which they played well 3 times. 3 poor efforts in that series, one of which they won because that Boston team stinks.
Oh, come on.
They stink.
Let 'em have
They're
it.
bad. They're bad.
109
That
points
team
this
stinks. A
season.
great job during the regular season by Jim Montgomery, because when I saw that team on the ice against the Florida Panthers, I realized, holy cow, that team over there in black and gold, they suck. They're bad.
That's not
and we
true.
kick their asses up and down the ice
right.
once we realize, well, after a week off, we got a hockey series, I guess. Right. That dude tried to goon it up in game 2, made the narrative in the media a despicable one, when everyone should have been talking about how the Panthers are daddy. Daddy. Eat that,
show.
Boston. You want to pretend like you're gatekeepers of the sport? You don't know where we play. Well, let me make it very clear to Bill Simmons. Home ice is the TD Garden. 6 straight in that barn. You got nothing on us. Garbage-ass team.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Lebitard Show. We're the Bruins sucking bad garbage-ass team this year at Lebitard Show. Put up Chris Whittingham.
Cheer your loser-ass team as they raise their sticks in the air like they did something you should be proud of. They didn't do shit. They didn't do shit.
Put up on the there on the screen.
2 years running. Sent you packing. At least it was a short trip home for you guys.
Is Barkov's hand okay?
Hey, he showed Bucci Mane both hands. He took a puck. I got to say, Boston was probably going to win that game. Were not for Barkov. Yeah, because Barkov absolutely saved that game.
That was hand of God situation.
Yeah,
right there.
that puck was absolutely going in. But that's the Selke winner. I haven't heard you. We're this far into the show, and you have not congratulated our captain, Sasha Barkov, for winning the Selke Trophy, the second in his career.
I love you asking if Barkov is okay, and Mike's response is he showed Bucci both hands.
I mean, what do you expect him to say? No, my hand's broken.
Is he going to take? Is he going to take face-offs? Is the real question.
He's great at them. He dominated Tampa on the face-off.
Matthew Tkachuk said Sasha Barkov's the best player on the planet right now. Hyperbolic. I think if there's a Conn Smythe being handed out for the playoffs so far, it probably goes to Wyatt Johnson of Dallas. But Barkov's been unbelievable.
The thing you guys are saying, though, this part is truly disorienting to me as someone who has watched 30 years of really subpar to mediocre hockey. You guys, 3 different names you've given me in the last 12 months on best player in the world who plays for the Panthers. You've given me 3 names on this, putting Reinhart in the McDavid category, which seems crazy to me.
I never did that.
You guys talked about Reinhart and Barkov and Tkachuk this
Tkachuk's
way.
a playoff performer. I would never put Tkachuk in that. And to be fair, I'm not the one calling Sasha Barkov the best player on the planet. I would not put those players
Tkachuk is doing that.
Tkachuk is doing that. And I would say for people that are casually following the sport, don't really know what's going on, don't really know how the sport's changed a lot, defense in that sport is really difficult to pick out. It's easy when Sasha Barkov is blocking a shot with his left hand. Here's something that Sasha Barkov does that maybe elite players back in the day used to do, but you're not used to seeing in hockey if you're just getting back to it. And that is an analytics play of carrying the puck into the zone, especially when you have an advantage. Usually what we all watched growing up was if we have the man advantage, pin it in deep. Dump it in, we'll get it, we'll reset. Well, analytics figured out that wastes about 25 seconds of possession time. So how do we get a better power play? You give it to your best skater, your best attacker. Sasha Barkov, at his size, you do not see players skate as beautifully as him. They scored a game-winning goal in Boston because of his ability to skate into the zone. That is what Sasha Barkov is damn near better at than anyone else in this league outside of maybe Nathan McKinnon. Being able to go on a rush, just skate between defenders, and carry a puck into their zone. Great decision maker.
And the other thing on defense, when the other team's in transition, he's excellent in back checking. Just like Gus Forsling is great on back checking.
He did get caught. He did get caught.
He got caught on a breakaway,
Yeah, that should have been an interference probably.
Yeah, but yeah, he's a play killer. He's definitely a play killer for the other team.
We bury the lead here. Are you saying that you watched 30 years of bad hockey down here in South Florida?
Yes. A second burying of the lead.
A lot of Keith Ballard.
Watched all of
Chris
it
Versteeg.
with the volume up.
I have watched a lot of shitty hockey
Christian
in this town.
Huselius.
I think we buried another lead, which we covered a little on Friday, but not enough. Bill Simmons not knowing where the Panthers play. Can we relive this and play this sound for the people?
Florida fans, settle down. You didn't know what hockey was until like 1993. You literally didn't have hockey. You've never won a cup. The average person who follows sports has no idea what city you're attached to. You're the Florida Panthers. Are you in Jacksonville? Are you in Orlando? Are you in Palm Beach? Nobody knows. The answer is Miami. But literally most people don't know that.
Including Bill Simmons.
Yes.
The sports guy.
Including a lot of Panther fans, though, in his defense.
I don't think he's saying anything inaccurate there, other than the team plays in Miami.
Look, I don't know what I'm. Look, I just gave you that Sasha Barkov thing. I ripped it from a podcast. I'm from a swamp. There's only 6 people like me. We don't know anything about this sport. So continue on.
Barkov's hand did save that goal. Bobrovsky was wildly out of position. The photograph on how it is that Boston could have tied that series easily, if not for Barkov's hand, made it pretty obvious that would have been a game-tying goal. The thing I wanted to ask you, though, Roy, because you mentioned you have to stay out of the penalty box. Tampa was better on the power play than the Rangers, correct? Was Tampa not the best team?
Tampa was the best power play in the league this season.
In the entire sport, it was Tampa, and so the Rangers have that as an advantage. You don't, obviously, in any circumstances, playoff hockey, regular season hockey, want to be down a man, but you're afraid more of Tampa's power play than you were of New York's power play. You're more afraid of Tampa's 5 than you are of any power play situation.
I mean, I was based on past history. I mean, their power play in the playoffs, basically murdered the Panthers in recent playoff appearances. But, I mean, you got to stay out of the box against this Rangers club because they're gonna kill you.
Tampa, because of the salary cap and all the winning that they've done, there's a reason why their roster wasn't what it looked like. They are nowhere near as deep. I mean, there are guys on that on that Ranger squad that would be the best player that are on that second line. You could pick any of those 3, and maybe a third of the league, they'd be a bona fide first liner, best player, best scoring option over there. They've got their top 6 guys are really, really damn good. Whereas Tampa, you knew who you had to worry about. You had 86, and you knew Stamkos, who ended up being arguably the best player in that series, was going to be a problem. But where else are they going to get their goal scoring from? Not an issue. And again, as I mentioned, Vinny Trocheck, who has plenty of history as a Panther, all-star, was tripped, not called. Panthers got eliminated.
Bad history.
Great player. Bad trade. Even though he didn't necessarily perform to that level in Carolina, he certainly did against the Florida Panthers, and he just made their lives a living hell in this series against Carolina, and he's bound to make our lives a living hell again.
We're going to get to the gas bag of the week in a second, but Roy, help me with this sport. I have talked before about feeling that with very few exceptions throughout sports, the ability to win one-score games, Tom Brady had some of that, and you can but I'm saying you can find the roots of how it is that he did it numerically.
Sure.
But largely, you cannot find teams that are good at winning one-score games across sports. The Marlins last year were a bit of a fluke because they got to the playoffs, but they had a distorted record in one-score games because their bullpen was good. And there are certain things you can do to take the randomness out of it. The Panthers this year, though, and I don't want, just because I'm hopeful that they win the cup, to be blinded by what I think is statistically hard to achieve, which is they're exceptional in one-score games. But the style that they play would also seem to be exceptional in one-score games. So is hockey different than the other sports where the randomness of one-score games is slightly less random?
I mean, if you look at it in this series, I mean, the Panthers, they allowed goals in the first period by the Bruins. They scored first, and then the Panthers ended up coming back to win. So the Panthers are also good coming back into games and then winning by one
Cardiac
goal.
cats.
Yeah, which, by the way, that Boston team is not a team that you want to go down. You see the anti-hockey that they play when they're chasing a game, when they have the ability to lock down with a one-goal lead. But you mentioned that entering this series, they've won the exact same number of one-score games as the New York Rangers.
Well, the Rangers are very good at it, too.
Yeah. It's playoff hockey.
Playoff hockey.
Yeah, there really aren't any good I haven't really heard any good predictive analysis when it comes to this series, and the reason why it's so difficult 2 years running with this Panther team is they've shown you in the postseason they're a bit of a different team.
Chris, do you have the gas bag of the week ready? You already took out Simmons, so I don't want to do that to him again, even though you have that in the library. Let's see who this week's gas bag of the week is.
Gas bag of the week.
Excellent production, as always, here, sparing no expense whatsoever, going into the vault to find the highest of art to introduce this stuff. Here is Draymond Green proclaiming the bad body language of the Timberwolves is the reason that series was over when Denver went up 3-2.
Listen here, I got two things of why this series ain't coming back to Minnesota. Number one, the big Frenchman is sitting on that podium speaking his native language. We need to do this. You need to get a stop. It ain't we. Karl Anthony Towns is actually doing a pretty good job when he's on Joker. It's you, my man, that's getting cooked. So it's no we. Now, yes, you do need help from the other guys, but on some of those, help can't help you. Like, you just got to get a stop. So that's number one. Number two, when you're in these playoff series, for me, I'm always looking for the smallest ounce of weakness that I can find. And the way Karl Anthony Towns walked off that floor with the limp after he played the rest of that game totally fine and then he could barely walk leaving the court, they don't believe anymore. And when you lose belief, this defending champions you're playing against, when you lose the belief, it's over. And they don't believe they can win anymore, which means this series is over.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Juju, did TNT pay Draymond Green only to hate Rudy Gobert throughout the postseason? Because that was amazing to watch Draymond just spit hatred again and again. Of the top 15 players in the league, Stugotz, who are paid the most, only one of them is still playing. His name is Rudy Gobert.
That's amazing.
That's the one.
Wow.
A note on the Denver Nuggets. They won a championship, and they won a championship last year in pretty dominant fashion. I lamented that I wanted to see them get tested, to see the heart of a champion rise, and we finally saw them get tested, and they folded. It's like everything that I believed in, like what a championship assigns a team, is now into question with regards to this sport, because the second they actually had to test that championship medal, the second that I thought it actually mattered against this young Minnesota team, especially a team with Rudy Gobert, who comes in, as Draymond Green has mentioned, with a reputation, Denver Nuggets showed that they weren't that guy, pal.
It's funny because earlier in the series, they were down 0-2 going back to Minnesota. They won both those games. That's exactly what you're talking about. Like, they were showing their championship pedigree right there. But to be up by 20 in a Game 7 when you have a 3-time MVP and you're the reigning champs and not being able to close it out, that's insane.
You guys
man.
can do all of that, and I will simply keep coming back to, hey, you guys know how good that defense is Minnesota's playing? Because it's championship defense. And you can tell me it's about the medal of the Joker, but I'm not questioning that dude's medal. He was tired.
He had a great game. No, but I'm
he was
questioning
tired.
everybody else.
That's fine.
The finals are supposed to make guys like Aaron Gordon and Porter Jr., and I know Jamal Murray had an injury, and I'm not questioning him so much, but, I mean, it's supposed to make those guys really good, that experience over there. And they end up getting worked by a Rudy Gobert team. I know how good that defense is. I know how good Rudy Gobert defenses tend to be entering the postseason. And then Rudy Gobert's not on the floor during those postseasons. He changed the narrative.
I believe that what you just saw yesterday is everyone taking notice for the first time of Minnesota's defense.
It is Mike Ryan, and I am back in the chat room today to introduce today's throwback guest. He's an NFL Hall of Famer, a former quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers who won 4 Super Bowl titles in a 6-year period. And on top of that, he's an actor with appearances in movies like Failure to Launch. Enjoy this classic interview with Terry Bradshaw from the DLS archives.
Terry Bradshaw told one of the best stories ever told on this show. It was that movie where we saw his butt with Sarah Jessica Parker and Matthew McConaughey.
I can never forget it.
Okay, well, let's hear the story from that scene that involved Terry Bradshaw's butt in a movie whose name I can't remember for anything other than Terry Bradshaw's butt.
I go back to my trailer to get my robe, and I look on my bed, and there's 3 penis socks. One is about 18 inches long, one is about 12 inches long, and one is about 4 inches long. And I'm looking and I'm going, you have got to be kidding me. I got to pick one of these and put on my penis. And I went, holy cow. Now, if I take the big one, everybody in the world knows that that's just no way that that's possible. I got horses that couldn't fill that thing out. So I said, if I take the little one, they're going to laugh at me because it's not very long. And I know the wardrobe people are going to gather around and go, which one did he go with? Obviously, I went with the middle one. And I put that stupid thing on. I got up there to do the scenes, and I had a penis sock on, and I've never been more uncomfortable in my life.
I hear something and learn something new every time I listen to that story.
It's great. Terry is with us. You've been working on a movie with Ed Helms and Owen Wilson, Ving Rhames, J.K. Simmons. And do you have a penis sock story from there? Do you have a great story from there?
No, I didn't get naked in that movie. It's one of the few times that I've done television that I didn't get naked. In the show I do for NBC, Better Late Than Never, I've already been naked. In a nude park in Stockholm, in the middle of the park, there is about 10 acres for nudity. You can sunbathe out there.
What?
And so I know. So I peeled all my clothes off and walked out there, and I had a hot dog in my hand they gave me for this scene.
All right,
and
hold on.
yeah.
I've got so many questions, Terry.
Hey, I get this. There were 2 men sitting on a blanket.
Oh no.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I went over to him and I said, with my hot dog, do y'all mind if I join? And they said, no, sit down.
Wait a minute.
But being also a giver, I said, would y'all like a bite of my wiener? Oh, my God.
Terry, I love you.
Look, you're still 12 years old, Terry. Terry,
Don't change
Terry,
that.
how is it possible that you're still 12 years old?
I don't know, but I'm glad I am. You know what? I live on a ranch, and then we have 2 bathrooms in the house on our side. I still will get out of the chair and go outside and pee in the yard.
That a boy.
This is what I want to ask you. Thank you, Terry, because to speak to your inner 12-year-old, I want to know the 3 oddest places where Terry Bradshaw has urinated.
Top of the house.
What?
Top of the house. Peed, but I was going to pee over the edge, but I ended up peeing in the gutter, which is kind of cool.
Okay. Ever in the sink of the house?
Oh, of course. Of course I peed in the sink.
Do you even use a bathroom anymore?
Get this. I go to the bathroom. I hate to hear that noise, that peeing noise when it hits the water.
Yeah.
I don't like that. So I sit down. I have a bad back anyway.
Oh, you're sitting
really?
down. Terry, you are so revealing. You just volunteer everything.
I said, well, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm sleepy. I don't want to stand up there and make all that noise and wake everybody up.
You understand, though, that usually if I say 4-time Super Bowl champion, that's a person who doesn't want to be associated with peeing sitting down.
Well, I really don't care. Everybody else is worried about their image. I think I only enhance mine. Let me tell you what I think about you. I think you guys are gutless. Let me tell you why. Why aren't you here?
Terry, because we've heard you're nude everywhere.
No, I'm not naked here.
Oh,
I'm good.
I don't know how long that's going to last. No. Nor do I know if I get near you that you're not going to pee on me.
Can we get you naked somehow on the show?
Thank you.
Hey.
Terry, take a shirt off. Just take a shirt off.
I got it off. My shirt's already off. I took it off a while ago.
Yeah.
You don't get that anywhere else.
You don't get that anywhere else. Urinating naked. Terry Bradshaw.
get him on.
I have some funny sound here to play for the group because I'm kind of bummed, Stugotz, that OKC didn't go longer into the postseason, just so everybody could have fallen in love with just how young they actually are, how young they behave, how happy they are to be in the NBA, traveling all over the United States.
Happy to be there.
I mean, they're just really young, but if you didn't know, the Timberwolves are also really young. And when you put Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards in a press conference, and Vince Goodwill, who's been covering the league for a long time, explains to them, and they might not have any working knowledge of the theory that old heads have in basketball, that if you're as young as they are, you have to fail big and publicly a couple of times before you're allowed to win the championship. No team like the Timberwolves has ever gone from where they've been straight to winning the championship before. You have to fall on your face a few times. And Goodwill asks them this question. And just listen, don't think of this as Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. Just think of it as a couple of young guys who are a comedic duo who work well off each other when making fun of how bad their franchise has been.
And usually in NBA history, it says you have to lose and lose big before you win. What is it about this team that says
we lost last year?
Yeah, but that's different. You have to lose at a bigger stage. Usually, teams.
It's the playoffs. We lost last year.
We lost the last 2 years. Shit.
God damn! How much more we got to lose?
Yeah, how much you want us to lose?
We're losing for 20 years.
I mean, that's just the truth, dog.
God damn!
We've been losing for 20 years, he says, next to someone who's 22. Someone who's 22 years old.
My entire life.
Hey, Anthony Edwards is out here at 22. How much more you want me to lose? I lost in the first round last year. That's enough. That's enough losing for me
done
forever.
Losing. Yeah.
But the first round is
lost
usually
in a practice somehow.
That's right. Well, Karl Anthony Towns, I don't know if he shook some of that reputation last night, but how many of you were out there waiting for him to go bad body language, go to be all the things Jimmy Butler said he was in a practice with Wiggins that we still talk about? In fact, I'd argue that before last night, the biggest moment of Karl Anthony Towns' entire career in terms of leaving a mark, positive or negative, is that in a practice, Jimmy Butler undressed him. It's like the signature moment where for years now we're talking about, is this dude soft? Is he mentally strong enough to do what it is that he did in a Game 7 yesterday?
He could win a title before Jimmy. How about that?
Well, he was better yesterday than Anthony Edwards was. Everybody's talking about what Anthony Edwards is, but 6 for 24. Kobe won a championship one time on 6 for 24 by grabbing a bunch of rebounds and doing a bunch of stuff in a Game 7 that Ron Artest bailed him out of. But 6 for 24 yesterday in a Game 7, that'd leave a mark if they lost. Like that was not that McDaniels and Karl Anthony Towns ended up bailing out Anthony Edwards yesterday, who made a couple of threes when he needed to that were wide open threes, but that was not a strong showing.
But what Anthony Edwards can do, Dan, when he doesn't have it going offensively, he is a great defender.
That's
and
correct.
They put him on Murray in the second
Yes.
half. Murray was great in the first half, not so good in the second half.
He said afterward, Edwards came out of the locker room. They caught him out of the locker room. He said, put handcuffs on him. And yes, that was, we talked earlier in the series about what they'd be able to do on the perimeter with Murray and how important it was. And you saw that offense rendered impotent by what they did to him.
He's a great defender. Murray was hurt, and he's going to need to be a great defender in the next round because there's a team that has done its suffering with a young superstar that seems also impossible to stop. And I want to do like a sports cable television topic right now. Which duo would you rather have, Edwards and Towns or Kyrie and Luka?
For a series?
For this series, because I think I know who the better supporting cast is. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are a little bit deeper, depending on which P.J. Washington you get for Dallas, because sometimes I watch that guy, he's like freaking Steph Curry out there, and sometimes he'll be invisible a little bit. But
same with McDaniels, though, right?
But Naz Reid, I think that was like a star-making performance. I know he had some hardware attributed to his name, but that was a star-making performance.
When you say
Rudy's a Hall of Famer.
When you say best duos, it sort of doesn't account for the fact that Rudy's not only a Hall of Famer, he's an all-star, and he's an all-star defensively, so it's doing an entirely different set of things than your duo is doing. Your sixth man of the year is also providing stuff that your duo isn't providing. Minnesota is not here because of Anthony Bennett, Anthony Edwards, and Karl Anthony Towns.
Trash.
Anthony Bennett, the Wisconsin coach.
They're not here because of those guys offensively, though. That's not why they're here.
Well, they're going up against two uniquely gifted offensive superstars that, if you ask anybody, like, I could be draped all over them in that league, and they're still getting their shots off, and it doesn't matter what I do defensively. And Kyrie and Luka are those guys, pretty much. So I can't wait for this matchup. Even though there have been some upsets, it's been an NBA postseason that hasn't had games that get its hooks into you. There have been like maybe 5 good quality games because of the way that the sport's been.
Close games.
Yeah,
Close games.
Like games that'll – I wasn't watching with the sound on until the second half, and I was watching with the sound on. I thought that game was over, given what I've seen in this postseason. When a team goes up 15, generally they end up going up 30 in that sport.
But you have checked out on loving the sport the way that you used to, and what you're saying, while it might be true for you and your casual interest, is not true for Juju. He's eating up every bit of this. If you just simply love basketball, you are watching things that don't require the late game buzzer beaters in order to appreciate the kind of players that
I'm watching it. I'm watching it. I'm saying, like,
I'm not saying you're not watching
sole
it.
Focus
I'm saying that you need, Mike, you're at a point in your sports fandom where you need extra. You're at the same way that heroin users need more and more heroin to get the same high that they used to get. That's where you are with your sports consuming, where basketball, you need it to keep being all what the Sixers and the Knicks felt like at the end of the games.
Right. No, I appreciate you putting it on me. I think you're absolving a sport from its issues. I mean, the sport has issues. It's not just, and it's not a Mike Ryan issue.
The sport has issues. The sport has issues. It's in the playoffs. Look, it's just fantastic. I was 100,000 feet above the earth. Rudy shot the ball. I saw the ball out the window. It went in the rim. Come on.
I don't doubt that any playoff basketball is better than regular basketball, but it's happening at a time in the sports calendar where there are things that are going on that are just of personal interest more to me that I find a little bit more dramatic. Hell, the sound was on at the NASCAR All-Star race, and it remained on till well after the race because even NASCAR gave us a moment worthy of sound.
We'll get
you
to that.
sound like me watching NASCAR. They're just driving around in a circle. I'm bored as fuck.
We'll get to the fight. We got a fight in NASCAR as well. But, Jeremy, you have a little something here for Stugotz.
How, Stugotz, did you hear the name Anthony Bennett and go to Wisconsin coach? Like, were you talking about Tony Bennett, the Virginia coach?
Tony Bennett was an assistant at Wisconsin. Look it up.
So that's where we got from Anthony Bennett, the mistake for Anthony Edwards, not the number 1 pick in the NBA, Anthony
What
Bennett.
happened was he just Googled Tony Bennett to
And
see
got
if there was
lucky.
any
Is that what it was?
Connection to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, did I get
Wisconsin
lucky.
assistant.
Name
Anthony
another
Bennett, of course.
Name another lead college basketball assistant.
amazing.
Right now, go for it.
I can't.
That was staggering. The way
Got
that
lucky.
Stugotz waited. Stugotz, hold
It was
on.
your mistake.
Hold on. Yes, it was initially my mistake.
Anthony Bennett at least was a Minnesota Timberwolf.
And Dick Bennett was the head coach for the University of Wisconsin at one point.
But what
Loose connection.
His mistake, at least, there was an Anthony Bennett that played basketball for the Timberwolves. I can understand it.
Stugotz is spinning around as if he's won something here, and I wish to examine what just happened, which is the following. I want to let people look behind the curtain because he's got to go to an internet search the moment he realizes he said Anthony Bennett and he said it incorrectly, and now he's going to search the entirety of the internet to find. You mentioned Dick Bennett for some reason. You're just firing in all directions, and it is shrapnel. It's just stuff that he spews in all directions, trying to be right somewhere. Please, Jeremy, find for me when Anthony Bennett was an assistant at Wisconsin. What years Stugotz is referencing?
That was Tony Bennett. Anthony Bennett made it all the way to head coach. I mean,
Tony Bennett was an assistant coach at Wisconsin from 1999 to 2003.
So that was the era that you were referencing
Stepping stone,
as a victory for you. Let's go here. I want to get to some Malone sound. Mike was talking about Denver being tested, and you saw when he won that Malone spent a lot of time trolling the Lakers. He really enjoyed himself. The tone, slightly different when you've lost a Game 7 at home.
Absorb a loss like this after going ahead by 20.
Next question, man. The season's over. That's what's hard. Being up 20. The season's over. You don't understand that. The season's over. It's hard. Stupid ass questions.
Ooh. It is warm.
That was rude.
I feel like his answer was dismissive enough. He didn't need the dismount of stupid-ass question.
I mean, he lost to Gobert.
Let's just play that again because this is how it goes down, the bitterness of losing when you're a champion who last offseason got to parade around with you through chains on. Did he have grills at one point?
He called Brucey B. Wait, look at him without Brucey B. You look like an idiot without Brucey B. And I said it.
Play that again.
How hard is it just to absorb a loss like this after going ahead by 20?
Next question, man. The season's over. That's what's hard. Being up 20. The season's over. You don't understand that. The season's over. It's hard. Stupid ass question.
Do you think the reporter understands that, though?
I believe the reporter couldn't have gotten a better answer from Malone. It's perfect. It is a flawless answer. It just sounds and looks a lot different than he did when he was double-fisted.
Is that Paul Wall?
Telling everybody to smoke it last year when they won the title, and now it goes down a little differently when Minnesota's sending all those young people and big bodies at your three-time MVP. Rarely do you get that kind of distilled honesty from a coach. He could have just left it at next question, and we all would have known that he thought it was a stupid-ass question. One more time, play that bitterness so that we can just drink those Denver tears. Goodbye, worthy champion. We're done with you.
How hard is it just to absorb a loss like this after going ahead by 20?
Next question, man. The season's over. That's what's hard. Being up 20. The season's over. You don't understand that. The season's over. It's hard. Stupid ass questions.
I read over the weekend, I did not know this, Stugotz, that last week in the UK, because it was a mental health awareness week and because 48% of the kids in the UK feel pressure to be happy all the time, McDonald's stopped calling it the Happy Meal.
What?
For the week, because kids don't want the pressure all the time, 48% of them, to be happy.
That's a really low number when you really think about it.
Too low to change the Happy Meal.
Certainly, because why would they feel pressure in England to be happy?
Right. No one else is.
The McDonald's team that worked on this, while I'm all for any dialogue that starts and makes easier conversations around mental health, I don't need them around what is now being called the meal instead of the Happy Meal. It's not being called the sad meal.
Right.
It's just the meal, and they've removed the happy. And I feel like you've gone too far if you've removed the happy from the Happy Meal. Put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Have you gone too far if you've removed the happy from the Happy Meal?
Dan, so you're telling me you go to the drive-thru at McDonald's and you simply, last week, and you order the meal?
That's correct.
That's a number 8.
The meal is
that's
number
what
8?
a meal is. Yes, a happy meal is something, if I'm sad, it makes me happy. There's a beautiful toy inside, a fun toy inside, and there is great food inside, and it comes in a nice little box that makes you happy.
Well, they're removing a sticker smile. They're removing the happy smile.
Now it's just a flat line.
To be fair, they didn't remove it. You still can put the smile on there. They gave you stickers,
but no pressure to put the smile on there.
No pressure whatsoever. They gave you like a handful of options. So if you want like a Happy Meal, which is like a straight line for a mouth, you have that option as opposed to being force-fed a smile.
I've got to salute, even though I'm against the principle of this, just because I want my fat and happy comfort food and I want it to always be happy. I really do have to salute whoever was in the marketing meeting that thought that this was a good idea to try to have McDonald's enter this conversation when McDonald's can just as well stay out of this conversation and not be participating at all, which is what a lot of corporations would choose, instead of stuff that would take the name, the Happy, off of an iconic meal for a week.
It is dumb, Dan. I can promise you the cure for mental illness is nowhere on the McDonald's menu.
Okay,
I promise you.
Stugotz.
Okay?
Not even a milkshake?
Ridiculous.
Okay.
I mean, it's not a happy. I'm not ordering a meal. It's not a Happy Meal. I want a Happy Meal.
A McFlurry. It's a really positive message, though, on the box that it's
It
okay
is.
to not be happy all the time, and normalizing that kind of
It's a
discourse
message. It's a message.
It's
I
a
don't
really
know.
good message to
It's-
have.
It's a message. I'm not sure if it's a positive message. You could have kept the happy there for me and kept it a positive message.
Right. Call it the Bah Humbug meal while you're at it. Jeez.
Yeah.
But this is a meal you get to make yourself happy.
Not
They're
always.
giving you less opportunity to be happy.
Well, sometimes if you're not feeling happy and you're just surrounded by joy, you just become more unhappy because you start questioning, why am I not this happy?
Preach.
Couldn't the Happy Meal make you happier, ideally?
Yeah,
in a perfect world?
It's mental health. There isn't a turnkey answer for all of this. Otherwise, it wouldn't be what it is right now. But
Have you had those fries? I mean,
they make me happy.
they make everyone happy.
They make me happy. But sometimes when I'm in my feelings, I'm having those fries. It just,
I see.
just digging deeper.
Pressure to be happy is bad?
Yeah. If you're not happy, the pressure to be happy, sometimes it's bad. I felt that. Yeah. Yeah. It can be bad if you start wondering, why can't I have a good time? When I was going through a really bad mental health stretch, I was at a Jack White concert in Portland. I had great seats. I was right in front of Jack, and I was a misery. Like, if you told me in a vacuum, that would be one of my happiest places ever. And I left that concert early because I was just wondering the entire time, why am I not happier?
Oh, I believe that this right here, what you've just articulated, is something that right now is a plague everywhere, where people can't get outside of whatever their individual problems are to have the gratitude that is necessary on the pie chart of happiness for wherever it is you arrive. But
Right, but I felt even worse about it knowing that I'd be having a great time here, and I'm surrounded by people having a great time, and I was still trying to understand it. So to hear a message that's not messed up, like it's okay to feel that way sometimes. And now coming through it, even though, it's a lot like recovery, you're going to run into triggers, but I do feel like for a large extent that I'm out of the woods now. Looking back on it, I would have loved a message knowing that it's going to be all right. This isn't forever. There are things that you could do about this. It's okay to not be okay. So it's a good message.
it's a bridge too far to me, just because I want to eat my McDonald's without thinking of that at all. And I will be unhappy after eating the McDonald's because I've eaten the McDonald's and it's not what I should have been eating in order to keep my body working the way that it's supposed to. But I do actually, while I'm making fun of it, celebrate the idea that any fat, happy corporate entity would dare to walk into any of these waters, even though it's not something for both the United States and the UK. It's only in the UK. It's one branch of McDonald's sticking its finger up in the air. And do we dare to enter the mental health crisis? It's not all of McDonald's, because you generally don't have these corporations wading at all into these waters.
It's funny that there isn't a uniform policy when it comes to menu items. You go to Japanese McDonald's, they have all these different crazy menu items that you become envious of. The Happy Meals are different too. When I went to Mexico recently, the Happy Meal for Mexico was kind of a little messed up. It was like, let's indoctrinate a future workforce. Here's the Happy Meal giveaway. Drive-through headsets. Here's a nameplate that says McDonald's. Like every McDonald's around the planet has geo-targeted Happy Meals that are different.
They're franchised, though. I mean, you have the right, as an owner, you have the right to do what you want with that menu, correct?
But I always thought, my myopic Americanness, that if my Happy Meal was a Jurassic Park Happy Meal, or if I had the Batman Forever, man, that was such a money glass. What a great giveaway. The Batman Forever glass set, I just assumed that, a kid in Norway would be getting the same thing. It's not always the case.
Juju, what does the rest of your collection look like? What is the cupware, other sophisticated and charming cupware that we have in the Juju household?
I got 4 good cups. What's the Batman one? It's the Joker. It's the Riddler with the question mark handle.
That was a good one.
And I got the cup I won in the fantasy Guillermo Mafia League. Salute to Guillermo.
Oh, nice.
Any Flanagan's cups? Are they as good as the Flanagan's cups?
Absolutely. Every single cup is wet. I'm not going to blaspheme. It's equal to the Flanagan's cup.
Thank you.
Well said.
He knows when he's playing on the road.
Yes.
He knows when he's playing on the road.
Toeing the line, Juju.
Yeah. I don't think we're ever going to mention it, but I do want to mention that Tyson Fury lost over the weekend.
I was going to mention it because I want to talk about, I've not seen him look like that, Stugotz. And you now have a unified title in the heavyweight division, which I'm guessing most of the people listening to this do not know the Ukrainian heavyweight who beat Anthony Joshua twice and did that.
Or how to pronounce his name.
It's Oleksandr Usyk.
Yes.
It's how
Nice.
you pronounce his name. Oh. Yes. And that shouldn't get a celebration because I know the name of the heavyweight champion of the world.
I was scanning. I was like, do I venture out into this microphone and say Usyk? I'm not sure.
You went right after it, man.
Because
you knew it.
He's done something very impressive. And Tyson Fury, let's go ahead and play. Tyson Fury was trying to clown this person.
Yeah, Fury came in looking like he was in pretty good shape. He looked spry early on, and it would appear that one of the best pugilists we've seen in the heavyweight division got outboxed.
Let's watch this because he won. It's hard to beat the champion with a split decision. It has to be an overwhelming fight in order to take the champion's title. And here is Fury. Let's go ahead and play this. Fury was clowning him, and then he wasn't clowning. You've not seen Fury look like this. Deontay Wilder knocked him out, and I thought that was going to be the end of Fury, and he got up after 8 seconds like The Undertaker. But you've never seen Fury look like this.
To the body as well, Usyk.
5 minutes later.
Everybody stop it! No! Fury! He's down! The corner knockdown!
Saved by the ropes, saved by the bell, saved by having 100 years of ancestors who know how to stay on their feet when they've been punched by bare knuckle. Seriously, that guy.
That's a skill.
That guy able to stand around with that chin and not go down, I'm telling you, that comes from ghosts and spirits from Grandpa would headbutt you. He would headbutt you if he had a dispute with you during the Great Depression. These are people who fight in the streets for money. And that's what Usyk defeated, and I don't think people understand what it is to beat Anthony Joshua twice, which he's also done. I know we don't care or understand what might be inside the roots of a fighter from Ukraine.
Going up against the guys that you mentioned, these are bigger, stronger dudes than he is.
So much bigger than him. What are you laughing about?
Ukraine, because you're right. It's different.
Just all of it.
This crazy run of his kind of times out with what's going on over in Ukraine. And you got to imagine, I mean, weren't the Klitschko's in active service? Aren't they still over there trying to free their, his mind is certainly elsewhere during this height of his career.
Lomachenko as well.
You guys know that I love boxing and fighting, and because it's the most primitive, barbaric thing to be stripped down to just, I got to go in there and fight this other person for money. But when I've talked to trainers who in the corner in the 9th round are telling their fighter some form of the family's not going to be able to eat if you don't stop being tired here or stop losing. God knows what that person brings into the ring with him to beat a Tyson Fury. Because Tyson Fury is a really worthy heavyweight champion who's beaten all comers. The Klitschko's you mentioned, he ended their reign, and their reign would have been the most impressive thing in the history of American sports boxing, which is not something that the Klitschko's are not regarded as one of the great brother teams of all time because they're not American, but they'd be looked at like Venus and Serena Williams or the greatest combos we've ever had if we happen to care about them as Americans. He ended their reign. That dude has been an impressive, gangly and weird, because I don't get it. Love handles is not what we associate
Hard
with
to
that.
explain. Very hard to explain. Tyson
Like the
Fury.
Joker, his situation.
with more love handles, with what would look like my body. I'm fitter, I believe. Physically.
Careful.
Not entering this fight.
Knock it off.
Not entering this fight.